Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Mark, and you're watching Redraw on the Disney Channel right now. Anyway, this is part 4 of a little ongoing, semi-short lived series of videos where I take old drawings of Robot Masters from Mega Man that I did when I was a kid and reimagining them about 15 years later. So on this lovely little video here, we have this one guy called Lightman. And if you were watching the previous videos, then you'd probably see that each character had sort of a defined theme in some kind of sense. Like character Gearman was like an old, like, I mean, he had gears, it was in his name. And Jetman, and you got Geoman, who's like made of rocks and the earth. And you could kind of spin a story around that and kind of figure out where a character like those might fit into the world. But for this one, this is the part where things start to get a little more abstract, and there were a couple instances where I've kind of run into that. And this is a great example of probably the first one that's like that. So it's because, like, I made this guy called Lightman, and you could see in the original drawing, like, the hell even is he supposed to be? Like, light is so vague of an idea or like an attribute that it's like you could spin that in any friggin' direction. So I definitely, I would say I struggled quite a bit with this drawing. This is probably the one this is definitely one of the more turbulent drawing experiences I've had with this series so far. And that was something I was kind of expecting, to be honest, at some points, but it definitely still, even so, it still kind of threw me in for a loop. Because I'm like, how the hell do I interpret this guy and like reinterpret him? And one of the things that I've been wanting to keep consistent with each of these redrawings is to sort of, in some way, preserve some of the details and original design of the drawings I did when I was a kid. Like, I wanted to incorporate those and not just do a completely flat out just overhaul. I wanted to try to incorporate some of what I drew into these new drawings, and you'll see probably later on there's one point I do fail at that, but in this instance I do definitely carry that stuff over. However, I feel like I wasn't able to really capture a proper theme for this guy. And at this point, like, I still really don't know what the hell, like, he's supposed to be made for. Like, I feel, and I don't know. I'm at a little bit of a loss for words. I think you could probably tell by my voice how conflicted I am with the way that this drawing turns out, even though, like, it's probably, you're watching this probably early on in the process, but yeah. Anyway, it's just I definitely think I failed in some concepts, and in the idea of, yeah, maybe I was a little more true to how this guy might have looked and sort of preserving that and making that a little more updated and modern. But I don't have a proper theme for this guy. And I remember when I was drawing this, I would go through like several different types of things in my head, like, oh, what could this guy be made for? What could I? And usually, like, I'll brainstorm that before going in, or like early on going in, and that'll kind of influence where the drawing process goes through there. Which is like how a lot of character design goes, um, at least for me. But in this instance, it was just kind of a crapshoot for me. So when that happens, I kind of just take the old design a little literally and sort of just translate it and hope that something clicks because of that. And while I do think the design itself is cool, it feels a little aimless. And you might be wondering, talking all this and I'm bashing this drawing in a sense, and you might be wondering why I'm doing that and why didn't I just redraw it and do that and and have that video process instead. Well, I think the reason for that, and not just because of laziness, but I would say is because I think it's important to really document every side of creation and art creation, and not just drawing, but anything that is part of the creative process. Because I think it's important to showcase the things that work and the things that don't work, because that is a very normal part of that. And I think one of the things that I really want to try to do with this challenge is to show maybe something a little bit more of the human and flawed side of art creation. Social media and YouTube, of course, can seem very filtered in that sense, because in so many videos that you see when it comes to art and stuff, a lot of times you're seeing the triumphs of every artist. And there's nothing wrong with that, clearly, because there's a lot to learn from that. So I don't want to sound like I'm bashing that method or anything like that. But I do also feel like there is a very just as important of a responsibility or just it's as important to showcase and demonstrate the failures and struggles. I won't say failures, but the struggles of the art process through the artists, because I think those lessons can be just as valuable, not just for the artist, but for anybody else seeing things, seeing the video or whatever it is, the final piece. I mean, you who may be viewing this thing might not think that at all. You might think, oh, I think this looks perfectly fine. I don't know what he's on about. But to me, I can see a lot of what went wrong. And then, I mean, I was the one making it, so I was there the whole time struggling to figure out what purpose and theme to give this guy and how to direct that. And, well, anyway, what I'll say is I went through several different ideas for this guy. I don't even think I have a concrete God. I don't think I have a concrete final answer to that question of what this guy could be made for, what's his purpose in contexts. But I went through several different ideas where at one point I thought maybe he would be a botanist or something, or maybe not a botanist, but like work in like biology or something, plants, maybe like a plant scientist, or like help, or be a plant scientist assistant. I kind of was leaning towards that with like the sort of lab coat design that I gave him, and I figured like, oh, maybe you could work in a green room or something like that and sort of foster plants, but like that's such a I feel like that's such a boring concept, especially for a guy that's designed the way he is. He's super flashy and he's very style um over practicality. Uh which I've mentioned in previous videos was kind of an unintentional running theme with this series of drawings that I was doing where I seemed to have bounced back and forth between more practical designs and more flashy stylistic designs for characters, which is funny because with Geoman in the last video, he was pretty simple in design. He was really, I mean, he was made of rocks. He was like a mountain. He looked like a mountain. And I figured like, oh, he works in like volcanoes, and maybe what he does is he'll like seal up um, dangerous fissures in the earth with his like magma gun or something like that. And that's where all those tubes all over his body are for is for sort of funneling that stuff. And it's like, yeah, that seems appropriate, easy peasy. The design was simple enough, and I think read easy enough for sure. Just like with Gear Man. But yeah, it's not the case here. But like I said, I wanted to sort of try to really strike a balance between completely redesigning a character, which I did do with Gear Man, just to make him, but that was more so just to make him fit in line with this Mega Man style, because that guy just did not at all look anything like that. Um, Whereas in this case, I definitely tried to preserve that, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out what this guy could be, for what purpose this guy could have to exist. Um, which I guess is also kind of an interesting thing to talk about because sort of purpose and reason for existence is a theme that's pretty broadly and sometimes intricately talked about in the Mega Man series. So maybe this guy fits in line a little more than I realize. Um, so yeah, I I don't know. Um, I think if anybody who's watching would have an idea of what this guy's purpose could be, it'd be great. I mean, it'd be one thing if like you were a Mega Man X character, because they operate on like free will and stuff, but that's not the case with classic Mega Man. So, yeah, that's my struggle overall, and and yeah, that's how I feel about this guy. He is an interesting design though, I will say. I think compositionally, I really wanted to, I mean, obviously I wanted to emphasize the lighting here, and really put a focus on the contrast between light and shadow, um, to really fit, at least have something that fit that broad theme. Um, so in his hands, I kind of gave him these light projectors. I'm not sure if they would be harmful or not, or if they would just be for illuminating. I mean, I guess now I'm thinking about it, maybe he could be some kind of ah, I don't know. Maybe he could work with archaeologists or something exploring caves. And sort of be like a light source, but then at the same time, it's like, well, would he just be a fancy flashlight then? I don't know. I had another idea where he could have been working in a planetarium, but I'm thinking about it more and more. Like, I don't know, maybe he works like a light show. Maybe. Yeah, light show, actually. I'm just realizing that. Maybe he could be like part of like an entertainment robot where he does like light shows and stuff for like, I don't know, concerts. But Again, like, wouldn't that just make him a like regular operator? Like, why wouldn't they just why wouldn't they just hire some guy to do light shows? They already do that in real life. I don't know. Maybe he's like a stunt performer. Maybe he's a sort of like circus freak or something, and he yeah, work does like cool light tricks. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe the light show thing could be cool. Maybe maybe he works with like pyrotechnics or something like that, or I don't know. Whatever. I'm thinking about this too hard again. um, but yeah, I will say I always start off sentences like that. Oh, I will say this, I will say that. Anyway, please bear with me for a minute. But I do like the color composition on this. That I think that's probably the one certainty that I had with this guy was like I definitely want. I mean, I obviously want to incorporate yellow and stuff like that, which is not a color I feel like is very common in Mega Man. Like there are accents of yellow. I remember on Robot Masters and other characters, but it's never like the front and center as I think I made it with this guy. So that's one thing I think I did an okay job of was kind of making him stand out in that sense. And yeah, I definitely went off the beaten path there. Um, you might also wonder why I switched back from older Photoshop files for previous guys, and that's just for consistency and to carry over layers and other assets that I did for them, just as an attempt to keep things consistent and also just to remember how the hell like I would draw these guys because I'm so forgetful. I'm very, very absent-minded sometimes when it comes to like I'm like trying to remember how I draw certain characters. It also doesn't help that there was a bit of a time gap between the first few that I did and then the final few. Oh, I guess I should also mention, I think I mentioned in the last video, but I have 30 of these guys that I drew as a kid, but I'm going to be breaking up those 30 into sequences of 8. I do realize that that doesn't add up to 30, that adds up to 32. I've got it covered. But right now I'm focusing on the first 8 because that's how many bad dudes you would find in your typical Mega Man game. So, yeah, that's what I'm rolling with. And yeah, and I'm making these guys for what could be a hypothetical Mega Man 12 or spin-off game or something like that. I don't know, just for funsies. And it's a good challenge. And I will say this was probably the first real bump in the road, I think, for me in this challenge. Just with everything that went through with this guy. It might not look like it, but I I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where to take this guy. But eventually it just kind of got to the point where I kind of had to just let go of the idea of like trying to like make a guy a certain way and just kind of keep kind of make him for what he is. And that's another reason why I didn't just redraw him and try to make him better, is because I think it's important again to just kind of go with the process and kind of carry things out till the end, because if you keep hitting the undo button over and over again, you keep restarting, then you're just going to get more and more frustrated and nothing's ever going to get done. That's what I've learned, at least in my several years of trying to be an artist. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to push through with it Um, if it comes to a point in a drawing where I know I'm not enjoying it and like I'm really forcing myself, then I guess it's different. But I try not to do that too much. I try to see things through to the end, have finish a drawing, warts and all, just because it's a good thing to look back on, and it's a good thing to um, just analyze. I mean, if you want to get fancy with it, analyze and just see like, hey, what went wrong with this, or like what maybe not what went wrong, but like what could I do better? Looking back, and that's kind of how I'm viewing it now. Whereas I wouldn't say this is anything near my worst drawings, but there are definitely things that I feel like I could certainly improve here, especially with like the posing and some of the proportions and stuff. Um, I don't really like how I put his leg behind his other leg and it kind of just disappears. I think it should have been a little more pronounced and visible for clarity. Like stuff like that. I did. I'm commenting on this stuff now, but I like I said, there was a little bit of a gap, so I drew this thing maybe almost a year ago, and a lot's happened since then. And in terms of drawing and my art style and how I go about things. So I don't know what the point I was trying to make was, but basically what I'm saying was is that it's good to look back because for future drawings I can sort of look at this thing and see and sort of take that experience and apply that into my newer stuff. So yeah. But anyway, this is Lightman, and this is here he is. Um, that's pretty much it for that drawing. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I think he's one of my lesser favorites, but I I can deal with it. He's got a place here, and he's not going anywhere. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this process and listening to me talk. I also don't mind if you just mute me and watch this. That's perfectly fine too. Doesn't matter. But thank you for watching. Uh, and I will see you in the next one for part 5 of this little mini series we got. We're halfway done with the first set, and we got 4 more to go. I'll see you then. Catch you later. Bye bye. Bye.